Welcome back, traders. You've got to pump it up. Here we go, pump it up. You've got to pump it up. Here we go, pump it up. How are we doing today? We have an absolutely gorgeous GME earnings aftermarket today. And the stock is up only 0.13%. Go figure, right? I'm not surprised to see this consolidation because not only do you have earnings, right? So the stock and the investors particularly are waiting for further clarification for the markets. But what you've formed here is actually a rising wedge, which is a bearish reversal formation, which in case you guys don't know, if you wanted to take the target from that, you just take the width of the beginning of the wedge and you put it on the bottom there or wherever you break out, right, along this uptrend of support. Theoretically, if you were to break out right around earnings, you're coming straight down to that gap fill. And I think that technical confluence is too perfect not to happen with your gap fill sitting at exactly 2181 or 2183. So that's what I'm watching for going into earnings. I'm watching for some volatility to pick up here. Not to say, though, that you couldn't do one of these because you see this all the freaking time in the market where you consolidate into the wedge, you knife, and then you V-line. And I do think something like that, you often see that around earnings, where you see that wick down, that initial, oh no, and then something comes out that dramatically swings the stock in the other direction. So just the short-term analysis is this rising wedge. But in the broader market, guys, the sentiment, let me hit this with a refresh. Your crypto markets are coming out of extreme fear right now. Your stock market's in fear. So still so much to do, but all of crypto is ripping today. Just absolutely going to the moon. So in my opinion, that is a great sign. You see Bitcoin here having an absolute tear, finally breaking its resistance trend for the first time since, when was that? For the first time since early October, and I do think that this is a good sign. You're chopping around the 200-day EMA. I think you're going to cross above it, and that means and spells well for Gamestop as they are invested in Bitcoin. But this is your rising wedge on the 4-hour time frame, and you can see here you are literally right underneath or slightly inside of your previous uptrend of support. This ran all the way back, guys, to June of last year, even May, right? And this is what we were talking about, seeing potential resistance on our previous uptrend of support. And that's exactly what's happening, right? You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, blah, 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 blah. Probably like 13 touches along there. And now you're grinding slowly against it. There is also the possible scenario of you break up here. It's not often that it happens, but you could potentially break up from this rising wedge, and they could completely bear trap anyone going short and liquidate them at the pinnacle of the rising wedge. But what I think is likely, guys, in my opinion, is that you get this move down, you fill the gap, you come back up, chop, and then you go. And the reason I think that's likely is because not only do you then have your gap filled at 2183, but you form the inverse head and shoulders formation that we had been talking about for a little bit over a month now. With your neckline being right here, let's move that up just a tad. That almost takes you into your point of control. So kind of mind-blowing that you could see this potential inverse head and shoulders here, shoulder, head, shoulder, off of that drawdown to the gap fill. So that is one scenario. The other scenario that I'm watching very closely, guys, is a potential break here into that $24 territory, the same way you did here, and then you come down to either fill this gap. And if you do not bounce off of the gap, you're coming all the way down to $19 to kind of play out this falling wedge formation that we had talked about. It being your tap along that $24 zone, you would then come down, hopefully make a bullishly divergent low here, in which the RSI makes a higher low, the stock makes a lower low retrospectively, right? Wouldn't be surprised to see that happen around earnings. Always just happens to seem that way. But that's what I'm watching for potential buying opportunity, is if you get to these lows, guys, along this trend line, I am going to be pounding the freaking table, blowing the horn, beating the drum, whatever I got to do to build up some kind of excitement here, because this stock is primed. It is absolutely set. As you're currently at the same price that you've been at since January of 2022, guys, your fundamentals are completely turned on a dime, 180, and this company is now going on a potential sixth beat in a row, guys. A sixth beat in a row of earnings. So we're going to have to watch your aftermarket, what happens. That's your short-term outlook. Your long-term outlook for me is that you do one of these, bam, falling wedge formations. Bullish reversal formation. Beyond that, we do still have, on the weekly time frame, you are still above, whoops, get rid of that. You are still above your weekly RSI band, and you are testing the 50 line, guys. Get above that, and in my opinion, things get very, very hairy, because above the 50 line, volatility picks up. It's like you're on the left lane in the highway, right? Things begin to get a little crazy. And the fact that you got above your RSI band, I'll zoom in on the stock a little bit here. Every single time that's happened, guys, you've pretty much marked your low. Pump back here. That marked your top when you slice beneath it. This marked your low. Cross it here. Bam. Marked your low pretty much perfectly. Bam. And then the best example is the first example back in April of 2024. Literally marked your low at $10 or $9.80, whatever it was. And you ran all the way up to $65 and $80 in after hours trading, guys. So I just want to say, this thing looks insane. I'm a buyer regardless. And we got to pump this thing up. Gotta pump it up. Here we go. Pump it. I can't contain my excitement. On the macro, the monthly time frame, what did you do? So last month you printed a beautiful hammer candle. Let's get rid of some of our drawings. And let's get rid of the point of control here. Printed a beautiful hammer candle, and you're seeing some follow through from that. If this is the bottom, you'd like to see a break of this trend line. If you break that trend line, you get back above your previous resistance, guys. Things get crazy. So I'm excited to see that if it can happen. I want to talk about AMC a little bit here towards the end of the video. Slap the subscribe button if you guys find value. I always forget to say that, but it is one of the most important things, guys. We're on the road to 100 freaking thousand. Let's make that happen. So AMC, trading within a falling wedge on the RSI, a much, much longer term falling wedge on the RSI, and not surprising to see you top out here as you topped out on the RSI. Now, I'm going to cover something that is oddly consistent for this stock regarding the RSI. Is every single time you've dropped to make that new local low, you've then come up, you've made a bearishly divergent high on the RSI. So this is bearish divergence. It's a higher high on the RSI, but a lower high on the stock price at the same time. So you've done that, right? Lower high, higher high. Let's look at the other times we rebounded, right? So this was lower high, and then what was that on the RSI? Higher high. And then you consolidated. You made one more bullishly divergent low before pumping upwards of 100%. You did it again over here, where you saw a lower high in the price, but on the RSI, you made, go figure, a dramatically higher high. And I guess that's because that price, so maybe that's not fair. We should do it like that. You made a higher high in the RSI, lower high in the price, dramatically lower high, right? So what I'm watching for is, that has now happened the last 3 valley-shaped formations on AMC. I'm inclined to believe, based off of the trend, because the trend is your friend, you're going to do probably something along the lines of that. because that's literally what you've done every single time. Pair that with our bullish divergence on the weekly time frame, I wouldn't be surprised to see it. I would not be surprised whatsoever, as that's how this leg played out. That's how this leg played out. I would not be surprised to see your voting happens, right? A lot of the fear and greed gets clarified, and that allows for optimism to step back into the stock and send this thing freaking flying. And in case you guys are new, which we have many new people, so welcome. Our thesis on AMC is that you are playing out this macro falling wedge and have been since September of 2023. Now, what am I watching for? Because this stock, you could make the argument, is as good as dirt, has returned negative returns over and over and over and over and over and over. But what we're watching for is a repeating cycle, and not a fractal, but history often rhymes. And what I'm finding on this stock is you're beginning to rhyme again. You can see this bullish divergence on the RSI weekly time frame happened during these couple of squeezes that we all remember, right? This was March, this was August. Now what happened was you put in a touch of bullish divergence, you then ran 160%. You put in a touch of bullish divergence here, you then ran 160%. Another good example of this was back in November and October of 2020. You put in that touch of bullish divergence. You also did on the macro right before that. You then ran. You absolutely skyrocketed 900%. So you have now done this, guys, along this falling wedge schematic. And not only have you dropped below it, you then reclaimed and you're holding it with strength, but you've made lower lows consistently while making higher lows along this uptrend. And what I was looking at to be convicted, to be bullishly biased on this stock, is I was looking for that bounce. Looking for that bounce in the RSI. And now what I'm watching for, guys, is if you can do something that you did back here, and that is cross the weekly RSI band, guys, honestly, things could get so scary for the short sellers. Things could get so hairy very quickly. And you could be talking squeeze because you have had higher high, higher high, higher high, lower high, lower high, lower high. That's bearish, right? While also having these touches of bullish divergence. So I am watching for a potential, what is that? 1, 2, 3, a fourth touch of bullish div on the weekly time frame, guys. Or I'm watching for a cross of this RSI band. Whatever comes first, this thing is going to slingshot. And I think it's funny that happens at the exact same time, around the same time frame that Adam Aaron had posted. And this was a while ago. I want to see if I can find it on my Twitter.
Idea. The biggest idea I'm working on, I can't talk to you about.
Really? Oh, yeah, you can. We're amongst friends.
Not till January or February.
Super Bowl?
No.
So he was talking about a potential idea coming out January or February. And shout out to Cad Food Cannon, right? Which is huge. A potential catalyst coming January or February, whether that is something that is, I don't know, a pairing, right? Or whether that's just significantly lowering their debt. Anything can flip this stock on a dime. So I'm watching for that. I'm also watching for the Russell 2000 having its highest weekly close ever and is now testing for the all-time highs. Now, this is good for quite literally every single small cap stock. And what you're watching here is you've now made an all-time high. You made one today. So that is tremendously huge. And it just looks so good. Just looks so freaking nasty, guys. So I am genuinely watching this thing and looking back at previous breakouts. And we've covered it time and time again. Every single time you've passed this flat resistance, what you've now done, you retested, and you are now looking to fly, in my opinion, up to 300 on IWM. And that would make our small cap stocks go ballistic, guys. Go crazy, go rocket ship, right? That is what we're waiting for. That is what I'm watching for personally as they lower these rates. Additionally, you're looking at the weekly MACD beginning to cross up, guys, as that freak out on the Fear and Greed Index was just a blip in time. Just like we knew, right? We freaking called it the entire time. So that's going to be all of it for today, guys. I will cover GME after the earnings. God bless each and every single one of you guys. And remember, the best is yet to come. Peace. Woo.